You not only had to sing and dance and act, but you also had to have a persona that the public couldn't get enough of. Hi there, my name is Tessa, and I was practically raised by the Disney Channel. I watched all the TV shows, I played all the Flash games, and anytime I found a stick on the playground, you know that I was drawing a pair of Mickey Mouse ears. Now, that isn't necessarily a unique experience, and everyone has their own favorite memories of the Disney Channel, with some people having very strong opinions on which shows and actors were the best of the bunch. Recently, this has led to some lighthearted discourse about which people should be sculpted on a hypothetical Disney Channel Mount Rushmore, with some Disney stars even chiming in.
I would say me, Hilary, Shia. I would also put in
Miley?
Jet Jackson. No, not Miley. I love you, Miley, but not Miley. She came after.
You know, Jonas Brothers, Miley, Selena, and hopefully me.
I 100%. That's mine.
Absolutely.
You can't do it without Miley. You can't do Raven. Like Hilary. Hilary Duff. I mean, Liz McGuire was like huge. I feel like I have to put, because of the show I was on, I feel like I'd have to put the twins. They would be like, you know, I think they would just be mad at me if I didn't put them on there.
Now, obviously, as a Disney Channel kid, I have some thoughts, but I also think it's important that we all understand the prompt in question. So buckle up for a very brief history lesson. The Black Hills were a sacred area for many of the indigenous people living on the Great Plains, with the Lakota referring to the mountain as the Six Grandfathers. The land was eventually taken by the US government, becoming a part of South Dakota, and in the hopes of driving tourism to the young state, in the 1920s, a plan was hatched to carve sculptures into the mountain as a shrine to great American figures. Originally, there were plans to depict people of the American frontier, like Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea, but that changed to include 4 American presidents: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and Theodore Roosevelt. People who were considered pivotal in the birth, growth, development, and preservation of the United States. Construction began in 1927 and finished in 1941, with the sculptures technically being incomplete because of a lack of funding, finishing at their necks instead of their waists, as was intended. Over the years, there have been proposals to add to the sculpture with the likes of John F. Kennedy, Ronald Reagan, and even Donald Trump. But none of them have come to pass. Mount Rushmore is considered one of the most recognizable national monuments in the United States, right alongside the Statue of Liberty in New York and the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Speaking for myself, I was never that taken with Mount Rushmore, and I actually associate it most with the second National Treasure movie. Now, in spite of my disinterest in the monument itself, I do think that it poses an interesting question. Who would deserve to be on Disney Channel's Mount Rushmore? Is it about their recognizability, their legacy, their profitability, or a little bit of each?
Hi, I'm Raven from That's So Raven, and you're watching Disney Channel.
Raven Symone is probably the one person whose inclusion everyone can agree on. And I'd argue that she practically built the Disney Channel from the ground up. The first time she worked with the Disney Channel was in 1999 for Xenon Girl of the 21st Century, where she played the best friend character, Nebula. Then in 2001, she auditioned for the TV show Absolutely Psychic, where she landed the part of Chelsea, the best friend character. But after filming the test pilot, audiences were so taken with Raven that the Disney Channel decided to rewrite the series around her, leading to That's So Raven, which was one of my favorite Disney Channel sitcoms, in large part because of Raven herself. She was able to pull off the sincere and silly moments, and even as a kid, I recognized that her comedy chops were just leagues above everybody else on the channel's roster. And the only teenager that was comparable talent-wise was probably Amanda Bynes over on Nickelodeon. At the same time, Raven voiced Monique in Kim Possible and reprised her role as Nebula in Xenon Z3. But what I think made her a true Disney Channel darling was the success of the Cheetah Girls in 2003. I was a huge fan of the books when I was younger, and even with all the changes to the source material, I still loved the movie. And I definitely wasn't the only one, considering the Cheetah Girls brought in record viewership for the Disney Channel. Raven was a staple not only of the Disney Channel, but the entire Disney brand, appearing in The Princess Diaries 2 and singing the theme song for The Haunted Mansion. She continued to appear in various Disney Channel projects even after the conclusion of That's So Raven, often making cameo appearances on other sitcoms like The Suite Life of Zack and Cody, Cory in the House, Sunny with a Chance, and she even appeared in the Disney Fairies franchise as Iridessa, the Light Talent Fairy. As she got older, she moved away from the Disney Channel, but stayed in the Disney family, appearing in affiliated productions like College Road Trip, Revenge of the Bridesmaids, and State of Georgia. After a solid decade away, in 2017, she returned for the That's So Raven spinoff, Raven's Home, which aired until 2023, making her recognizable to kids in both the 2000s and the 2020s. Having made appearances on the Disney Channel for over 20 years at this point, Raven has been a part of several of the network's eras, so I don't think you can really ignore her impact.
I'm Miley Cyrus from Hannah, Montana, and you're watching Disney Channel. Thank you.
My next pick for my Mount Rushmore would be Miley Cyrus, who transcended children's media and became a global superstar. She was cast in Hannah, Montana in 2006 at the age of 14, and the show quickly became the Disney Channel's most watched program, remaining at the top for all 4 seasons. Everything Hannah Montana touched turned to gold, and it quickly became a billion-dollar franchise, with concerts, albums, and merchandise being peddled with Miley's face and name on it. Unfortunately, because Disney kept her on such a busy schedule, she only really had time to be Hannah, and I mourn the loss of all of the cheesy Disney Channel original movies that she could have been in. That entire era is what I personally consider the peak of the Disney Channel, where the network had several stars like Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato, and the Jonas Brothers who were popular in the mainstream and not just with children. If you were around at the time, you probably had a favorite of the bunch. As a tween, mine was Selena Gomez, but altogether they were a unit that represented how strong the Disney Channel brand was at the time. But with that said, none of that would have been possible without Miley at the forefront. And she raised the bar for what was required to be considered Disney royalty. You not only had to sing and dance and act, but you also had to have a persona that the public couldn't get enough of. Now, she had a rather dramatic exit from Disney in 2012, often being criticized for her maturing image and no longer being a good role model. And she spent the next decade as far removed from the channel as possible. It's only in more recent years that the relationship seems to have improved, with Miley singing covers of her old Hannah Montana songs and even returning for a 20th anniversary special. I doubt that she'll ever make a full return to Disney, but Hannah Montana's legacy will live on forever.
Hi, I'm Brenda Song, and you're watching Disney Channel.
I was really torn on my third pick, but I decided to go with Brenda Song. Like Raven, she had an incredibly long-standing relationship with the Disney Channel. In the early 2000s, she was in a couple of DCOMs, including The Ultimate Christmas Present, Get a Clue, and my personal favorite, Stuck in the Suburbs. And I just remember being so excited to finally see an Asian actress in that sort of children's media. Then she had a recurring role in Phil the Future, before landing the part of London Tipton in The Suite Life of Zack and Cody in 2005. The show was a huge success, with London being one of the standout characters, and Brenda would reprise the role in the spin-off The Suite Life on Deck, which began airing in 2008. In between all of that, she had her first starring role in Wendy Wu Homecoming Warrior, which is a fun little martial arts movie that didn't really have the staying power of other DCOMs. And although a sequel was announced, it wound up getting scrapped. After the conclusion of The Suite Life on Deck in 2011, Brenda moved on from the Disney Channel, but none of her projects really made much of an impact. And she's actually expressed a lot of frustration over the types of roles that she was getting at the time. She was considered too family-friendly for gritty parts, and then also too Asian to be cast in normal roles. In the 2020s, she returned to Disney, appearing in The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, and Amphibia. Both are voice roles, so I don't know how recognizable she would be to a modern Disney Channel fan, but she still looks great, and I feel like it's a wasted opportunity for Disney to not cast her in something live action. Like, let her be the hot, cool mom. I also think it's funny that at one point she was engaged to Trace Cyrus, Miley Cyrus's half-brother, and also part of Metro Station, who had Mason Musso, who was Mitchell Musso's brother. Really goes to show how intertwined everybody at Disney is.
Hey, I'm Zendaya from Shake It Up. And you're watching Disney Channel. Looking good.
My final pick for my Disney Channel Mount Rushmore is Zendaya. Controversial, I know. Her first role was the series Shake It Up, which aired in 2010. I was already a bit too old for the Disney Channel at the time, but I did catch a couple of episodes and I was familiar with her face. Disney was trying to fill the empty slots that had opened up after Miley and Selena and Demi had left, and Zendaya and her co-star Bella Thorne were positioned as the next generation of Disney darlings. So apart from Shake It Up, they also released music and starred in DCOMs that got people accustomed to their presence, with Zendaya starring in Frenemies in 2012 and Zapped in 2014. Initially, it actually seemed like Bella Thorne was going to be the more successful of the two, since she was actually able to book roles outside of Disney, whereas Zendaya stayed with the channel. Oh, how the tables have turned. Zendaya was the lead in the 2015 series Casey Undercover, which I am completely unfamiliar with. Like, I haven't seen a single tidbit of a single episode, but it allowed her to continue growing her fan base. And more importantly, develop an even stronger relationship with Disney. And I would credit her willingness to continue working with them as a big factor in their decision to cast her in the MCU, with Spider-Man: Homecoming being her first feature film. Obviously, in the years since, she's become a huge A-lister, and she's had nothing bad to say about her time with Disney, which is honestly a really great strategy since they can pay your bills for decades. And while none of her shows had the cultural impact of some of the other ones that we've discussed, they proved that she had multi-generational appeal. Now, because I can already sense people getting ready to argue with my picks, allow me to quickly explain why some people didn't make the cut. If you're around my age or older, Hilary Duff not being included probably seems ridiculous, but the fact of the matter is that she wasn't affiliated with Disney for as long as you think she was. She started Lizzie McGuire in 2001, starred in Cadet Kelly in 2002, and released the Lizzie McGuire movie in 2003. But by 2004, she had already left. Don't get me wrong, Lizzie McGuire was a huge brand that millions of people were familiar with, but I'm not building this list around stock value. You might have noticed that my Mount Rushmore is entirely women, but I swear that was not on purpose. I just couldn't think of a single man who had even half the impact. The closest were probably Kyle Massey and Mitchell Musso, who started off as supporting characters before getting their own TV shows. They also had stints in DCOMs, Disney recording deals, and consistent voice roles. But later in life, they both had a series of legal issues that caused the brand to distance themselves. So obviously, they can't make it on the mountain. Olivia Rodrigo, Sabrina Carpenter, Jenna Ortega, and Dove Cameron are probably some of the most recognizable people from the newest generation of Disney Channel stars, but they didn't really make a name for themselves for their work on Disney. Instead, they've become popular for the stuff they did afterwards. And that's the same reason I didn't include people like Britney Spears or Justin Timberlake or Lindsay Lohan, because even though they did have a couple of Disney projects, that isn't what they're known for. In all honesty, the only person who really came close to making it was Ashley Tisdale. Both The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody and High School Musical were massively successful, and Sharpay Evans is right up there with Elle Woods and Cher Horowitz when it comes to girly iconography. I mean, there's a reason she got a spinoff. She's also been voicing Candace in the Phineas and Ferb franchise for over a decade now, making her the person who probably has the longest continuous relationship with the Disney Channel. So who would be on your Disney Channel Mount Rushmore? That's it for this video, and I will see you next time. Bye!